हेलो करण गर्ग जी, कैसे हैं आप? आई
I'm fine, ma'am. How are you?
फाइन फाइन.
Are you able? Am I audible
Yes,
properly?
yes, yes, you're audible. So we'll wait
Yeah, sure.
till 3 o'clock. Okay?
No
So,
problem.
okay. देवेंद्र जी, याद है ना यूट्यूब लिंक करना है लाइव? ओ बताया नहीं. ठीक है. थैंक यू, थैंक यू. हाँ, वो रखिए.
हेलो आफ्टरनून मैम, कैसे हैं आप? ऑल गुड.
हाँ, बढ़िया मैम, बढ़िया.
लेट मी ask the students to join.
जी जी जी.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How are you all? Good afternoon.
And
Good afternoon, everyone. Shall we start now?
Sure.
So, a very good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I request you to stand for University Anthem. Now I request Professor Monisha Dhiman, President, Institution Innovation Council, to give welcome address. Ma'am,
Um,
over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Preeti. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope I'm audible. So this is our privilege to have Mr. Karan with us today, and I welcome you, sir. So just to give you a brief of what we are doing, it's Innovation Council. It's Institution Innovation Council. It's a initiative of Ministry of Education, and IIC has been working in the university since 2018, and we are just trying to create little awareness activities since then. But yes, we have grown quite a bit from then to now, and we have IPR Cell, who is organizing this event along with IIC. So these two councils are basically their theme is basically we want to enhance the innovation, entrepreneurship, startup culture in the university. So which we see quite less in higher education institute. You are from IIT, you know how good these culture is in IITs and technical institutions. Whereas in higher education institutes like ours, we are focusing more on academics and research and publications. So we definitely want real entrepreneur and real people like you who have actually gone to the. You are from a good institution. Then you have gone to the field. You have seen real hardships, what are there, and then come back and you are a successful entrepreneur now. So we really want. We have all the many students have joined. So really want to have a real a person hearing from a person who has really done all those things. And I, as a teacher, if I start talking like that, then it won't look real, right? So, so this is the kind of thing we are trying to initiate. And I welcome you on behalf of Central University of Punjab and IIC and my personal behalf. And I'm sure that students who have joined here, they're about 63, and we have faculty, students who all have joined. And I'm sure that this session is going to be very interactive, and they're going to learn a lot from you. And so I welcome all the participants and everyone who are there, who have joined us here this afternoon. Over to you, Dr. Preeti. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Monisha Diman. I have the privilege to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Karan Garg, Director, Multi-Melt Steel Private Limited, Punjab, India. Talking about his educational journey, Mr. Karan did his BTech from IIT Roorkee and then moved on for MBA from Kellogg School of Management, Evanston, IL, USA. He has experience of working with Rocket Internet GmbH, a startup incubator focused on launching internet companies in emerging economics. He has been founder of Fresh Supply In with B2B and B2C channel and a vision to create a farm-to-fork agri-supply chain company. He had been awarded with Golden Turkey Award at Walmart e-commerce due to dedicated services. He has also been awarded Appreciation Award by Ministry of Steel, Government of India for B2B procurement engine ideas for SMEs. His IoT-based analytics solution for SMEs selected by Neuron STPI Incubator for Startup, Government of India. So I think it would take a lot of time if I keep on reading his long CV and not taking much of your time. I invite Mr. Karan Garg. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Am I audible properly?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks a lot for having me here. I am pretty humbled, and I feel very special coming between all of you to share my journey, share my experience. Firstly, I would like to start with a note of, I would say, thanks for the the Institution's Innovation Council and IPR Cell for inviting me. And for all the students, I would really like to give you this feedback from my side that whatever Professor Dhiman, Professor Khetarpal, Dr. Senapati, Dr. Patnaik, they are doing, this is something you are very lucky to have such a support system in all these faculty members, and the kind of efforts they are making, the kind of initiatives they are taking to build a strong entrepreneurship cell in Central University Punjab, that is really very worthy of an appreciation. I have personally spoken to some of the faculty members, and the vision they have for this university. This was not the Bathinda I grew up in. This is totally different from the Bathinda I grew up in, and I, as a local resident, feel very inspired that there is something so good is happening in our city that the faculty members, the whole CUP faculty students, they will put Bathinda on the national roadmap one day. So my big appreciation to all the faculty members for putting in this effort. And so Dr. Khetarpal already introduced my profile, and there's not much to say other than what she's already said. I think it's a pretty small career I have so far, but whatever I learned so far, I think I want to keep it as an interactive session. And in between, if the students, you want to interrupt me anywhere, you feel like there is some more clarification on a particular point you require, or we can have a discussion about it as well. So I want to keep it as a pretty interactive session. I saw the last interactive session a couple of days back by Dr. Mrityunjay from KIIT. I think he's covered one very good aspect very beautifully, which is about how startup incubators can help technopreneurs. So I won't be spending much time on how to raise capital, but along that way, I think the points I want to cover today, one is how some sort of management framework or critical thinking can give you some kind of direction of when you want to think about putting your idea into an actual execution. Second is the importance of teamwork and how to build a strong team in the initial days you have. Third is like I've written some startups by raising capital, with some personal schemes I have availed and some of my friends and networks have availed. And lastly, around how you can take risk while you're young, and how you learn from your failure and move on if things don't work. So once again, thanks. And firstly, something around critical thinking slash some kind of frameworks I want to give you guys some kind of idea about. Let's say you have an idea and you want to develop that particular idea into a product. You want to test your idea in the market. So there is this international theory. There is this quite big, I would say, startup theory that is called bootstrapping your idea. In the initial days, it is always advisable never go for any kind of big investments or high expenditures. Let's say you want to build a new mobile app. I'm just taking an example out of the blue. But for that, you would think, okay, let's start having an office space and let's hire some engineers, and then, let's try to develop some support team. But on the other side, there is this other theory, let's keep ourselves to a work from home environment. Let's not hire any fixed term engineers, but let's go on freelancer.com and try to hire freelancers who can work for way more cheaper cost than compared to hiring a full-time engineer. And let's try to get the initial pilot product, the initial product you want to test in the market, get it developed at a very low cost. So the idea is always that focus only on the core key you want to develop. Don't waste your energy, your resources, your money on something that is not your core competency in the first place. If you want to build a product for, let's say, agricultural machinery for stubble burning, so don't waste your resources in the initial time on hiring big office spaces or hiring full-time engineers or hiring R&D staff, but you can just go and get it developed from another company out in the market, because in the initial period you will just want to focus on getting product right and not building a huge investment. And I think that always gives you a longer runway. I think the biggest benefit in that case happens is, let's say you can just invest 10 lakh in the beginning. So if that 10 lakh will exhaust in 6 months, but it will give you a longer runway for 12 months, then that will definitely be your, you will have a higher, longer life if you are able to bootstrap your idea. And secondly, in this, one important theory that is taught in many B schools and that is taught in many entrepreneurial boot camps is identifying the customer, getting the customer segmentation right. And I think that this is really a very important learning, if I can share with you from my own personal experience, that if at all you are able to identify your customer right, and then what are those customers' needs you are trying to solve, then I think that is a very a good situation to be in. When I tried to do my own fresh farm produce startup in Delhi, so at that time there were many customers. Some customer, they were only hell bent on getting the lowest price possible. They were saying, I just need potato, onion, tomato. Get me those products for the lowest price possible. There was another customer who was saying, I need these products, but I need very good quality. So definitely quality and price both cannot come at the same time. And there was then another third set of customers who would say, I just need delivery. I ordered it right now. I need it within the next 30 minutes. So these are three completely different customers. One is price conscious customer, one is quality conscious customer, and one is, I would say, a convenience shopper. So but in the initial period, maybe when I'm able to develop a very big company, I can serve all those customers by tailoring my product according to their needs. But in the initial phase, I need to be very conscious of the resources I can commit to serving a particular set of customers. And I think one key learning I had there was, if we are able to focus on a very small segment of customer, very niche segment of customers, and that resonates with the kind of product you can provide to them. Let's say if my experience is providing sourcing very cheap a supply, then I should target those set of customers who are focused on price. So if I'll purchase something very cost effectively, I will maintain my costs to the minimum possible I can. I will build a supply chain that is entirely built on the concept of low cost, and then my target segment will be always very clearly and crisply defined, that my target segment is the customer who wants price. But on the other side, if I choose to create a target customer who is only focused on quality, then I would not worry about price that much, because I will always understand that this is a customer who wants quality. They want fresh produce. They want the best quality produce. They want it directly from farms. And then I would tailor my entire supply chain, procurement, the people I would hire, the message I want to give to the customers. That would be according to the set of customers I choose to serve. This is a common mistake I think many startups do. Many of my friends did this kind of mistake as well, that in the initial days, in just you don't have that focus right, and you are trying to serve any customer. You are trying to not zero in on a particular customer's needs you are able to identify. So that, I think, could be a helpful thing to do if at all you are trying to start up on your own. And related to this is a product market fit, the PMF framework that is pretty commonly known. Let's say you identified a customer, you identified the need of that particular customer you want to serve. I identified the need that I want to serve this particular customer, quality produce. So I would not go for fast delivery. I would not go for price. And then I would tailor my product according to that particular customer's need, whether that customer would like to order on a mobile app, or whether they would like to order on phone, or whether they would prefer order on WhatsApp. I would like to understand what is the product exactly they are looking for, whether they are more flexible on ordering through a particular channel, then I would have to go that way. I cannot push my own product to that particular customer. And this is where, again, the faster you learn from the customer, the faster you are able to change your own product. That will be the key in your initial few days and initial few phases until you get the right product. I think it takes good amount of iterations, if I am to put it correctly. You cannot get the product right the first time. You try it once, you keep version 1, V2, V3, V4, at times it's V10, and maybe at times you keep, you change the product fundamentally altogether. But important here is to properly identify the need and then build your product according to that particular need. I think that is the message I want to convey. Focus on the customer, focus on the customer's needs, then make your product according to that particular need, and don't stop until you are able to get that product market fit right. That will be the key foundation on which, on top of it, you will be able to build your company. And this particular theory is applicable across, if you want to have a very technical product, because let's say you want to develop a new technology in biotechnology or genetics, then you would need to identify who are the customers who are willing to pay, who are the customers who are willing to experiment with that kind of technology, or who is the first customer that will lay their money on the table, or who is the customer that is benefiting from the technology. So identifying the customer, identifying the need, identifying the right kind of product to serve them will always give you a good framework about how to approach your idea and test it in the market. And this is more so for tech startups. Once you read about minimum viable product, again, when you are building a product, let's say the customer would like a very end-to-end solution. They would like to place order. They would like order tracking as well. They would like live tracking. They would like to know the exact location of the delivery vehicle. but that is not something that you can build initial phase. So you will always need to identify that, out of the entire product, it can be my product roadmap. I will always eventually have that kind of feature in my product. But in the initial few phases, I will approach a very step-by-step manner, because I cannot put all my energies to build an awesome product, but have it not coupled with actual operations. So the moment you build operations, you try to improve your product, then you build on further operations. So this is a journey that goes along with each other. But on the very minimum, you need to build the minimum product that a customer expects. The customer expects at the very minimum that I need to have a mobile app or a web engine, or I need to have a WhatsApp-based solution. So that is a minimum thing you need to target. But if you just focus on creating the entire gamut of services that particular customer requires, then I think it will be a wasteful effort in the initial go. And related to this is something I always advise other colleagues from my undergraduate institution when they are starting, or when they are thinking of getting their own startup down the lane, that it will be always helpful for you to have some kind of industry experience. If you just go on doing your own startup without having some formal industry experience, you can definitely succeed. I think there are higher chances of you succeeding if you have some kind of relevant experience in that particular industry you are targeting. I think I'll cover that point later as well. That this, I would say, big theory in at least United States, when I saw it in most of my colleagues who are passing out from my B school, or most of the colleagues I saw in California, that everyone wanted to work in a startup because their end goal was having their own startup. So the working for 1 or 2 years or 3 years working in a startup will give you sufficient experience in how to have your own startup. And last is just like marketing thing. It will always be helpful to visit industries, to visit road shows, to visit exhibitions, the trade fairs that keep happening to your business idea. If it's related to grocery, you should try and visit those kind of exhibitions. If it's related to plastics, because those kind of exhibitions, they will always give you the latest technologies available, and people are in that kind of mindset where they are actually sharing ideas, giving you feedback. They're all people from sales and marketing. They like talking. This is something I have really benefited a lot from making these trips to various trade fairs, exhibitions. This is something, it helps in building your networks. It helps in building your sales pitch. It helps in getting the right kind of connections where you want to pitch your product after you've developed it. So I think this will be really, this can be also something that might benefit your business idea. And next, I think I would like to cover a bit about what is the importance of building a team. This is something I feel I have personally been, I suffered because I was not to build a good team in the first startup I did, and I made sure that I don't repeat that mistake in the second startup I did, which is about having the right team in place. I just cannot emphasize enough on the importance of the team in the initial days, on the in your 0 to 1 phase, or in your 1 to 10 phase, or 10 to 100 phase. Team is ultimately the most important thing. Without team, you are not able to conquer the many things you need, the many facets of a startup. One thing is product, one thing is operations, one thing is marketing, one thing is fundraising. There are just so many things to do in your initial phases that getting the right team is something you can, it can make you break you. It will be always that particular trade-off with a team. If you have a good team, I think your runway is much longer. And be very careful of being very selective in the initial few hires you make. Don't be in a hurry to out someone, but be very picky in the first few employees you hire. And why I say that, because you need someone who is actually a believer in your vision, in your idea. You don't need someone who is just there for money or salary, because startups don't work that way. If you're building a product which is a grand vision, which is a big vision, and you require someone who believes in that particular vision. If you take example of Elon Musk, if you read his book, he just focuses so much on this particular aspect that I was going on building space shuttles, and I just could not find enough believers in my idea. That was the biggest challenge he had. He had the money, he had resources, he had the experience of running a successful startup after PayPal, but the biggest challenge he faced was building his own team who would believe in his vision. And typically, how that happens in startup is once you are having your first teams, you either give them equity percentage, maybe it is 1%, 2%, it can be as big as 5% even at times if it is someone from an experienced background. And that is the kind of compensation they are looking for. You always are very upfront with them that, I cannot pay you any salary for maybe 1 year or 2 years, but at that time I will give you ESOP options, I will give you an equity percentage. And it will be always helpful to look for people from your college network, from your workplace colleagues if you're already working somewhere. And like I emphasized in the earlier slide, that networking will always help you in your building team efforts. So focus on the first few employees, get them right, award them with good amount of equity company. And lastly, in building the team, this is again something from personal experience. You'll always come across experienced people who are maybe academicians, like your faculty members, or who are working in industry since the last 35, 40 years, who are retired, but they have such a valuable amount of experience with them. They know the market, they know the customer, they can be very valuable advisors. And trust me, these people, they love to share their experiences, they love to share their ideas, and at times they'll be just willing to associate themselves with you without any monetary interest. But there is a norm in startups that either you offer them 1%, 2% sweat equity. Typically, you cannot take any money from them, but you offer them some kind of interest in terms of equity shareholding, so that they are attached with you in a very formal way. You always can have your board of advisors. If you are able to get the right advisors, I think that will be a very good resource, because they have connections who are able to either become your customers or either become your venture capitalists. So getting that advisor piece right is also one very critical piece in your starting phase. Getting your team members who are becoming your co-founders or the initial few hires, and lastly is the advisory board. So I think these three key pillars would be a very good, if at all you're able to crack either 3 or 2 of these, or if you're able to crack at least one. So this can be a very good strength to your effort in building your startup. Maybe you want to build a EV electronic electronic vehicle. So you could have someone from that particular industry who has that kind of experience, and they can use suitably at each step. But yes, again, in the end, team is a big thing, something you need to have while you start up. Without a proper team, your capacity to function is almost very time bound. I made this mistake, and I would strongly advise everyone to focus on getting your team right. Next step is the most crucial step, I think. Without money, you can have team, you can have all the concepts, but everything requires money. And like I said in the last presentation, I saw they have covered many of the schemes, but some of the schemes I covered personally myself, and I have availed funds from those schemes. I would share those with you. One important resource here is using LinkedIn. Have a good professional profile, share all your resume and your previous experiences, your ideas, and reach out to people. Try to connect with as many people in that particular field where you're targeting your startup. And there are people who like to build connections. Reach out to them for a conversation. Trust me, it is there is always that kind of I would say hitch in my mind, that why would the other person be interested in talking to me, or why would they waste their time talking to me? But as a student, you have that kind of leverage, you have that freedom. Everyone likes to talk to students because students bring in that fresh energy, that fresh ideas. Everyone is looking for it. There are many good people out there who like to spend their time talking with you, hearing about your ideas or giving their feedback to you completely free of cost. So LinkedIn is a very good resource in terms of connecting those people, connecting with those venture capitalists. And like I put out in my slides, there are people who are working in those venture capitalist firms that are named analysts. If you just search analyst Lightspeed Ventures, you will come across 10 analysts working in Lightspeed Ventures. Their only work, their only job is just to talk with potentially new hires which are out there. So couple of websites, Crunchbase, Traction, Angelco. Whenever you list your particular startup on these websites, VCs will start reaching out to you themselves. You won't even need to make any effort. They will be just interested in hearing your startup idea and what are your plans and everything. But again, here again, a rider, out of all the people you approach for money, many will doubt you, make you doubt yourself. That is the biggest thing, that they will just put those kind of questions or you won't hear back from them. Don't let that doubt creep into your minds and hearts. Never take others' opinions so strongly that if he or she is saying, then I might be making a mistake. Listen to them, but not blindly follow them for whatever they say. I had my decent amount of run-ins with many of these venture capitalists who will always doubt you. They will always try to question you. Your unit order economics doesn't look good. You don't have this particular piece right. The customer, the PMF doesn't look good. So in that, I would always say, maintain your distance from negativity. Try to listen them. Try to listen and incorporate those feedbacks. But again, be very balanced in your approach. That this is the kind of feedback I would try to change according to this feedback. But this feedback is unnecessary, and just keep moving on. Trust yourself is the biggest thing. Again, that don't let noise. Separate the noise from the actual feedback. So that is the big message here. And in this, one of the schemes I covered, which is a very actually low-hanging fruit, it is called, I think, CGT MSc. Maybe some of you already know about this scheme. It's a central government-backed scheme for promoting small-scale enterprises, medium-scale enterprise, where the beauty of this scheme is you don't need any kind of collateral for raising a loan. I personally availed this particular scheme. The interest rate is a little bit higher. Maybe if you're getting a regular interest rate from banks up to 8%, but in this you might have to pay 11%. But the beauty is you don't have to put any land in as a firm collateral. The entire the scheme is backed by central government securities. So it is a very good option, and the whole point of it is promoting entrepreneurs who come from a humble background and they don't have any kind of monetary support from family. And I would definitely encourage you this particular piece of CGT MSc scheme. It is available from all nationalized banks, private banks, and it can be a good thing if you want to raise money without any collateral. If you're not able to get any money from VCs, you can always approach banks for that kind of collateral. If the startup doesn't work, it is fine. It is something that is the government is trying to promote. So you don't need to take it too harshly. If it works, it works. Doesn't work, it doesn't work. And in this, the second one is the startup incubator scheme. This is something while Dr. Ketan was covering my introduction, she mentioned that one of my startup is incubated in STTI Mohali. It's a central government GOI run incubator scheme. STTI stands for Software Technology Parks of India, and they have many centers of excellence. I think some is dedicated to agri-tech, some is dedicated to AI, DA, some is blockchain, medtech. There are like of excellence for each and every particular field. And typically they take up to 3% depending on the kind of pitch you make and depending on the kind of stage you are at. The max they take is 3%, not more than 3%. And they don't provide you any grant ready, but they provide you a very good amount of indirect support from industry mentors, like I was putting up in my slide. or when you're building your team, you need to have an advisory panel. So this particular body, STPI, they have a very good network of academicians, industry leaders, venture capitalists associated with them, and they are always available to you for any kind of mentorship they need. I've personally gotten good amount of mentorship from many of the leaders who are associated with STPI Mohali, so I can personally vouch for their credibility and authentication. And that indirect support is always good because you don't have to make much effort for it. You just have to go and tell them that I need to speak someone from this particular area and I'm facing some kind of problem, and they'll arrange the conversation themselves. And occasionally there are some grants to have. There'll be monetary grants that come in every 6 months or 3 months, and if you are at the right stage, they will select you for that kind of grants. And in this, they also run some kind of boot camps, I think, which is in collaboration with IIM Ahmedabad. And I think that was one other thing I noticed the previous presentation with Professor Sundar, that some of the students, they had these kind of questions around market and customer and product, and when do we feel it is ready. So I would advise that for technopreneurs like you, most of you are from a hardcore technology background, geology, biology, microbiology, genetics, and those kind of fields are pretty technology oriented, and it will always help you even if you don't want to. Take it from me, MBA would be like a big waste of time and resources. I think MBA, for getting into MBA for 2 years, or spending good amount of money, it helps if you want to have a job. But I don't think MBA would help you directly for any kind of entrepreneurial effort. At the very least, it can give you some kind of frames and some kind of helpful thinking. But do you want to really invest 2 years of your career and big amount of money in getting an MBA if your only goal in life is to have your own startup? I think that would need. I would strongly nudge you to have your own research and talk to more people about that. But I would. I think. Is more helpful if you want to have a more professional career, you want to have a job, and you want to raise up the professional ranks in that particular field. But for a startup, just some kind of basic knowledge. And this STPI body, they arrange for those kind of boot camps. It's like a 3-week boot camp, 4-week boot camp with IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore. So there are academicians who will be teaching you those frameworks I introduced in the first slide, and they will be walking through the entire journey of how to build the product, how to identify the customer need, and they will always listen to your product as well, and they will provide you the right kind of coaching you need. That kind of crash course is, I think, enough for most of you who are interested in pursuing your own dreams of having a startup. But a formal education, maybe that will always help you in terms of giving you a security that if my startup doesn't work, at least I can have a good job. But always calculate that trade-off, that 2 years of my life or 1 year of my life, and or how much money do I want to spend. If you feel it's worth it, then go for it. But if you are pretty sure that all I want to do in my life is have my own business, then I think it's always best to either get industry experience, spend some time learning about the basic framework, and jumping into starting up. And yeah, so next is, I think this scheme is particularly for state government. I don't know how many of you are from within Punjab, so I just put it out there. But Punjab government has introduced this scheme lately, which is mostly for manufacturing enterprises, that you are getting 100% capital subsidy on any investment you make. Let's say you plan to invest 1 crore in building up some technology solution. You want to build some agri-tech company, and you are manufacturing machines. So the entire money you put in, you'll get 100% subsidy. You'll get the entire 1 crore back in terms of the SGST you pay or the electricity duty you pay. And this scheme is actually working. We have availed this scheme too in the expansion in our family business we did. And I think this is very helpful because the entire fixed investment you make will just come out of the subsidy scheme by the government, and you don't have to. I would say you will just need to work on the operational model you won't have to worry about the interest cost and the principal cost. And occasionally, this particular scheme in the Punjab government is always giving also giving occasional grants to start up. One of my friend from STPI Molly, he's building an agri-tech company, and he got I think 6 lakh or 3 lakh some grant from government of Punjab, and now his valuation is, I think, if I'm right, 14 CR. His valuation has reached a pretty good scale in just 2 years. Next, I would like to just emphasize on how important it is to be little daring, a little trust and trust some higher power when you are trying to do your own thing and starting up on your own. There will be so many hurdles. There will be so many challenges. Maybe there'll be moments when you start doubting your own self, whether I made the right decision, whether I am capable or not, whether what I started to build down, I'll be able to build it or not. And I think in that, my only advice would be, you need to go in with that kind of confidence, with that kind of energy that, I won't doubt myself. I think that never go into self-doubt. If it works. It is good. It worked. But if it failed, don't take it too harsh on yourself. That will be my very important message to all of you. That at times things are just not meant to happen. Things are maybe you did not understand the market right, and maybe the customer was on a totally different sitting on a totally different expectation, or at times you could not build the right team. But just don't try to go into that self-doubt. I just spoke to a friend who started the 6th time within a span of we both graduated from the same college, same time, 2009. That was when he graduated. So even he has a career of 12 years. He failed 5 times, but he had so much energy, so much confidence in himself that he started the 6th time, and now he got a multi-million-dollar fundraise for his latest startup. So there will be at that risk you have to take as an entrepreneur. There will always be that area of darkness where you feel that I have to walk alone, and I have to stay so strong because my entire team is only looking at me for pulling them out of the darkness. The entire team will fail one day that we don't know what we are doing. There are so many moments. Even I used to get confused in my first effort. I just don't know what I'm doing anymore. Whether I was building a supply chain company or whether I'm building a tech company, I just started to get so confused. What am I exactly doing? But just keep trusting yourself in that moment, and don't go into that self-doubt that there is some problem in me that I could not do it. And the good thing with you guys is you are so young. All of you are in the best passionate phase of your life. You should just go and go and work on your dreams, and try your best to make them into reality. There will be so many opportunities that will come down the lane. There is such a growing acceptance for people who are ex-entrepreneurs. These days, you go to job market, you talk to anyone that you have tried your startup in the past, but you could not succeed at it. People really want to hear you. What is your journey? How hard did you try, and what were the reasons you failed? I saw this culture firsthand in America, and there is so much respect for ex-entrepreneurs that they have a special, I would kind of affiliation or some kind of appreciation for those kind of people who have taken that risk to go out on their own and started their own journey. That they always encourage them. If at all it doesn't work, you can always come back to them for a stable paycheck. And I think that is something you will enjoy during your journey, that it will make you such a good professional, such a mature professional, an all-rounded professional, that that will be a journey, that will be some lessons you will always remember for your lifetime. So if it works, it works. It doesn't work, at least you will always learn from it. And in this article itself, I'll share one example from a company named Zetwork. So this company is started by a friend of mine from Roorkee, and they started out in 2015. And their whole model was they'll build a SaaS solution for SME companies, B2B companies, for scale companies to make their order processing more efficient. Let's say I have to place order on a particular supplier. So right now I'm doing it on pen and paper and maybe typing it out, printing it out, and the format is different for each supplier. But they came in with developing their own software where I can enter everything and the purchase order would be automatically generated. Now, these kind of solutions did exist in the past. Supply chain processing, purchase order processing is already there in Oracle and SAP for big companies, but they started making it for small and medium scale companies. And initially they got so confused for the first 2 years that they almost thought of closing it down, because that was something that was totally not working. And slowly they try to discover that let's not lose hope. Let's take more risk if required. Let's keep trying. Understanding the customer, what the customer needs. And then they started working with large scale corporations on understanding what they exactly need. And now they have entered a territory where they're actually taking the entire order from the large scale company and getting it executed from small scale company. So they started off from building only a software for working between a company that wants to buy and purchase, but they ended up becoming the buyer and supplier themselves. So ended up becoming a middleman. You place the order on us, we will purchase it in the first possible, and then we will supply it to you. And now Z is, I think, $3 or $4 billion valuation company within 5 years or 4 years of their starting up. So they started somewhere, they landed somewhere, and along their journey, what helped them, if you talk about helped them, they had a real team. They had co-founders who kept believing in each other. They kept taking the right kind of very calculated risks at each stage, and they never lost faith themselves. They kept iterating until they got the customer need right, and now they are able to crack that particular market. But important here was that they never lost hope in faith in themselves. So like you guys are young, and there is always that kind of lastly, like I put it, you have that josh in you have that adrenaline flow in yourself. But always remember that calculated risk is best. You never want to compromise your bread and butter. You never want to land in a situation where you are becoming vulnerable and you don't know what to do anymore. So take the right amount of calculated risk. Maybe work for 2 years, save some money, and then invest in your startup. Or if you have some money from your parents, then you can invest it upfront. But calculated risk taking is something that is required for sure. You just cannot be very comfortable in your space and then hope of becoming an entrepreneur. Lastly, I think what I was mentioning is in the earlier slide as well, if it works, it works. It doesn't work, don't be too harsh on yourself. And I love this quote from Nelson Mandela: I never lose, I either win or learn. Well, he just said it in so few words that there is just not more to be said in this particular quote. Like I said earlier, entrepreneurship is a journey that will just make you such a good professional in yourself. And people do have respect for entrepreneurs. You will be amazed at the kind of mindset that has changed in people who are hiring these days in startups. So a startup founder who has seen a journey of failure and success himself, he will always be able to appreciate his journey of failure at the same time. So take it as an investment you do in yourself. If you have a good idea, if you believe in your idea, if you're able to form the right team, if you're able to raise some kind of capital, I would very strongly urge all of you to just go and start working on your dreams. You just cannot waste time sitting on it or thinking about it. Just take it as an investment you're doing in yourself. If it works, it's beautiful, but if it doesn't work, you will surely learn something in the end. I think that is the most important thing I've learned is success and failure is about the journey. The most important thing that comes out of it is the learning from that particular journey. And like there is always that element of destiny and of luck, but you just cannot count on it. It comes, it comes. It doesn't come, it doesn't come. just trust your own journey, trust your own critical thinking, and then building the team right, raising the capital, and then taking calculated risks. And I think you have a fairly good chance of succeeding. And lastly, I think this is something I speak from my personal experience here at Multimelt, that how can you use any crisis that is going on in your company in order to revamp the entire company, or using every crisis to challenge yourself to build something new. And as an entrepreneur, I think that is something that really needs some careful approach, because you just cannot fail. You just don't have that option. So in the last 2 years in our current company, we had a really challenging phase because of COVID. There was complete evaporation of orders, and there was a big impact on our bottom line as well as top line. So like I put it out, the figure in last 2 years, orders fell by maybe 30% or even more, and it impacted the margin as well as the revenue. And but what we did in these 2 years was, I calculated, we revisited the entire workflow, the entire I would say manufacturing process, from step 1 to step 10. Each step we the entire team we revisited. How can we cut? How can we become more innovative in giving the right quality but at a lower cost? So our focus was cost cutting in such a way that we in fact ended up in redefining the entire manufacturing process. The entire design of the factory has been now changed in the new format, because we are able to guarantee lower input costs. And then we focus on waste management. We focus so much on having alternate sources of revenue from waste. Then that we did not, firstly, the beautiful thing that came out of it was we did not have to fire anyone. And we just shifted resources from one area to the other, and ultimately it resulted in a lean manufacturing process flow with the right kind of labor required at each step, and with the right amount of resources in each section. And now I feel so confident in speaking for our foundry that we are able to manufacture the product in the lowest cost possible and the most environmentally sustainable way possible. So, but the fundamental message I want to give here is, if you are sitting in a chair where you have to make decisions, you are the who is the sole energy behind the entire show, then you just cannot, you just don't have any option to fail. You just have to rise every time. You have to find hope in every crisis. You have to challenge yourself and find solutions to a particular crisis. Giving up is always easy, but the important thing is here, how do I stay hopeful? How do I keep myself optimistic? How do I keep my team believing in me? And that will always be one core strength. If you think you have that kind of strength inside you, it is a very likely thing that you're an entrepreneur. If you always look for solutions in every challenges rather than a pessimistic attitude, I think you already have the first step conquered of becoming an entrepreneur. And lastly, I think I would strongly urge again all of you, like I said earlier, India is a land of opportunities these days. You have so much fund, so much of energy coming into startups, so much confidence coming into startups, and then you have that kind of ecosystem which is providing acceptance for failure. I think that is one very crucial piece that has started to come in the last 4 or 5 years. And the recipe is right, the stage is right, that good technopreneurial mindset people like you who are educating yourself from such a good university, you guys are sitting in the right space. You guys are being coached by such a good faculty team that you guys should definitely go and conquer your dreams. And I have put in my contact information, my email address, my LinkedIn. I'll be very happy to reach out to you for any kind of personal mentoring on any startup idea you have. I'll definitely try my best I can in terms of helping you think more deeply and passionately and more um, um, uh, uh, I would say carefully about your product or your business strategy. And if at all I can help anyone, I'll be very lucky. So yeah, that is something I just want to share. And if at all there are any Q&As, if at all there are any things you discuss I couldn't cover, I'll be happy to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Karan Garg. I think it was a very, very well, planned talk actually, that you have covered almost all the aspects, starting from where to start, that startup idea and business idea, etc. How to tackle the hurdles, basically like, failure. So you have explained that negative aspect also very nicely. That you have said that degree is not important, rather experience is important. You said that there are opportunities, but you have to be adventurous enough to take the risk and get that that particular achievement. And you have also explained how to tackle the failure. So as there are no more questions from the students, I would ask any other students or faculty members to put up any questions if you have to discuss with Mr. Karan Garu. Yeah, one student, Manan Singh. Yeah, please go on. Ask the question.
So, good afternoon, sir. Thank you, sir, for such an interactive session. We learned a lot. I'm a student, sir. As you told about failure in entrepreneurship, I just want to know about how, if I give you a quote like failure as an entrepreneur, then how will you like to define it? So using your experience, and when you said, sir, ki, a person who failed multiple times as an entrepreneur, how did he manage to bounce back from those failures? And what's the worst that could happen at any stage of entrepreneurship? So these 3 points are just, can you please?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, Manan, and thanks for bringing that up. Um, so failure there can be many definitions of failure. Someone can take failure as, I was not able to reach the scale I aspired for. Someone can feel failure is that I have lost all my money I have put into that particular startup. So maybe I put in 10 lakh rupees and all of that is now gone to waste. So for that person, that becomes a definition of failure. And someone can take it as a personal defeat, that is now my self-respect or ego that's come into question, and now I've started doubting myself. But many entrepreneurs, they take such a big amount of time to push back because they take it very personal, that they take failure as too personal. So everyone has their own definition of what they think failure is to them in terms of their startup not working out. But the second part of your question is, how do you bounce back from that failure? So here I think it is some kind of belief in destiny. Like one very good thing this said in our Gita, in our Quran, that karma kar ficha mat kar. So you need to focus on that piece, right? That I did my best I could. If it did not work, it was destined that way. You just cannot take the entire credit for your success, or you cannot take the entire credit for your failure. I think it becomes very difficult if you follow that approach. It will be very difficult for you to rise again. But take that failure as just a part of the entire journey, and that courage again, that I will try to do things better this time. I'll try to learn from my mistakes and not do it the second time. That is the key learning even I had from Angad, the guy whom I told he failed 5 times, but still he was able to get energy the 6th time, because he did 2 things right. He kept learning from mistakes he did along the way, and he took very calculated risks. That I don't need to invest more in this startup than I can afford. So maybe I have a budget of 10 lakh. I have worked in professional life for 2 years, 3 years. I have saved 10 lakh. I won't invest more than 10 lakh. I won't sell my land, or I won't encash on my parents' fixed deposits or PF funds because I believe in this idea. I have a very limited exposure I should give to this startup. I think then it becomes very easy for you to call your exit, that this is my exit. Now I have reached my exit point. I just cannot go there in. So taking that kind of exit point is something that will really help you in of your bouncing back. So, but if you just collapse yourself completely, I never hope that happens to anyone. Then it becomes a very difficult task to come out. That I met once a guy. He started on one scrap selling website 7 years ago, and it was kabadiwala.com, and he told me that he sold 25 crore of his parental and properties, everything in Kanpur and Delhi, and he invested that entire money into his startup. And he actually went into depression just because he had everything of his invested into that startup. So that will be my word of caution, that never go that route. Plan exit very carefully, that I can invest 10 lakhs, I can only invest 6 months of my life or 12 months of my life, but then quit it. Then just don't. There is no point keep going on and on it if you see any success into it, or you don't see any light at the end of tunnel. Did I answer your question the way you were looking at it, or did I miss the point somewhere?
Yeah,
Sir,
I think.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. You answered, sir. A little point, sir. I would like for you means I want to know that suppose I started with something, and means there must be different stages of growth. So failures at different stages must be different too. So means suppose I have taken a grant or something, the incubation scheme, any kind of. So if I'm unable to means how to call it an exit, means I'll have to compensate for it. Then what's that like?
So scheme I explained you, CGT MSc scheme, you don't have to give anything back. If it doesn't work, it is the loss government of India is willing to undertake because they want to promote entrepreneurship. That is and the same thing happens with VC money. There are so many investors. Those startups don't work, and in the end, it's a call that the VCs take. They always have that kind of, I would say, risk at the back of their calculation that the startup might not work. So,
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Acha, there is another question from Dr. Somesh. Is Dr. Somesh available now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you very much. So thank you very much for such a nice talk. So I have a question about this crowdfunding in India. What is the crowdfunding scenario, which we did not discuss as such?
Yeah, crowdfunding in the last, I think, so 5 or 6 years, it has picked up really well. And the ecosystem has been actually pretty well developed in US for sure. So what these crowdsourcing companies, they typically do, let's say you are maybe building a 3D printer. One of my colleagues from Kellogg, he did a startup by the name 3D Toddler, and they were basically building a 3D printer. And instead of going to VCs, instead of approaching their informal networks for money, they approached the crowdsourcing website. I think it was crowdfunding. The website name was crowdfunding as well. And the typical approach they have is they will give one 3D printer free after the product has developed to each of the customer who gives them a $200 payment upfront. So they collected cash this way. I think they collected good amount of 200,000 funding, and then they building on the product. And once they built the product, they had those customers ready as well. So it benefited them in two ways. They did not have to give any equity percentage. They got the funds, and then they had the right first set of customers as well. And now I think India, this concept hasn't picked in same proportion. It is now being implemented in US. I don't know for what reasons, but there are definitely websites. There are 5 or 6 websites who are actually helping startups raise money through crowdsourcing. I think there's one startup by 2 females from Ahmedabad, and but they are very category specific, that which categories they work with. So I have not seen it being picked up in a big way, but that is definitely one of the options you have as well. But the typical way a crowdsourcing website would work is maybe you give them certain equity for free, or some initial products also for free, and then you raise that kind of money from the potential customer, or someone in the crowd somewhere.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there is another question, very interesting question asked by student Himangshi Gautam. He's asking, sir, what is social entrepreneurship? How one can be entrepreneur while being into a social servicing?
Actually, this is something, social entrepreneurship is something I don't exactly very much subscribe to the idea of something being social and business at the same time, I think. But the overall idea behind social entrepreneurship is you are actually, in fact, trying to create a good social impact. So let's take the example of category of microfinance. You are actually trying to create a big impact in the sense you want to help those women who want to put up their vending shop for selling maybe fish, or selling some vegetables. You are actually trying to provide them finance so that you can create some social good. You are providing capital to those people who require it the most. That is at the heart of what microfinance is doing. So microfinance guys, they love to call themselves that we are social entrepreneurs, because in the end they are creating a social benefit. But the other side is, if you don't create money, if you don't create business, then you just cannot be happy sitting on the social impact you are creating. There is always that kind of balancing you would need, that maybe my end goal is I'm happy in creating a social impact. I'm happy that I'm that is my source of motivation. Maybe that will be a good way to differentiate it from an additional way of entrepreneurship where I'm only thinking about self benefit. That in social entrepreneurship, people are driven by an idea of creating some good for the society, but it has to be backed by good business sense as well. I come into conversations with many of suppliers who are trying to do some good for environment. They come up to me and say that we have these pollution control devices that you would reduce your energy footprint and by this much amount, and we are social entrepreneurs because we are trying to do some good for the society. But I understand that, and at the end of the day, business needs to go along with that particular passion for creating some social impact. So there are two sides. They can be separated in the sense that your underlying goal, your underlying motivation is that I want to be able to create a positive change in the society, but never forget the economics behind it. That you need to be conscious of making money in your business.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Garg. So looking at the constraint of time, we'll conclude here. And I would like to invite Dr. Jitendra Patnaik for the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Sabyasachi. It was really wonderful talk, I must say. Now we have reached to the end of the session. So it was really wonderful, and you have covered many things actually. When we look at the aspect of the startup and the entrepreneurship, you have actually shown the journey of the entrepreneurship, from where to start and how to proceed with keeping all kind of risk and other aspects. Like you have covered your team building, rising capitals, what are the different schemes are available centrally and in the state levels, how to get, and what are the challenges we are actually facing, lessons from the failure, that was very much important. Like as a young entrepreneur, we should know all the dimension of the entrepreneurship. And you also given your personal experience that is going to be very beneficial for the students and young mind who are actually thinking of Innovation Council Cell. On behalf of myself and from the Central University Punjab, we extend our gratitude and thank to your valuable time and for wonderful talk. And I would also like to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Raghavendra Prasad Tiwari ji. He is always constantly, he used to encourage IIC as well as IPR Cell and the faculty member to build this kind of ecosystem where the young mind will train and nurture, and they should think in this particular direction. And I also thank Professor Manisha Dhiman, IIC President, and Dr. Priti Khetrapal, Dr. Sabhijay Senapati, and other IIC from an entrepreneur. So with this, thank each and every participants, those who are present in the virtual platform to attend this particular lecture. Once again, thank you everyone. Now we'll rise from our seat for the national anthem. Priti ma'am.
Sir, I have a question, sir. Can we take that before national anthem?
Priti ma'am is not audible.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you. So students, IPR Cell will share the email ID of Mr. Garg. So interested students may ask their questions to him directly at any point of time. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Senapati. Thank you, Dr. Patnaik. Thank you, Dr. Park. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, students.